Talktainment Radio, worldwide sound. Talktainmentradio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
This is the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Good morning and welcome to TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. And you are in touch with the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby. This is radio the way it should be heard. We say good morning here, but in Japan, it is 1 minute after 11 p.m. So konnichiwa to all my listeners, or to all of our listeners in Japan, and actually all around the world. We get letters or statements, suggestions, a little bit of everything from all around the world from people. And here in the United States, my brothers and sisters, just remember that you are really blessed that you have the opportunity to listen and call in to the show. A lot of people don't have that. I was in communication with a brother over in a part of Africa, and he mentioned that they don't even know about this show or the things that are happening. And he is a disciple of Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and he's trying to spread the word about the United Independent Compensatory Code System concept. That's a textbook workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of racism, which is white supremacy. I don't know how he got his copy, but he got his copy. But over here we have access to the internet and maybe even the dark net. I don't want to fool with that one. Even clean drinking water. You're so blessed to be able to have that. Most of the world doesn't have that, but we do. So we are blessed, so take advantage of that. On the line is Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., as usual, and he's here to answer any of your, or rather to address any of your concerns or your comments. If you do call in, please try to make them brief, and that there are other people who would like to get theirs on, and we'd like to do that. And you can do that by calling 1-877-932-9766. Now, if you call in now, the lines are clear, and I understand that whatever problem that we were having last week, and we do apologize for that, I understand that it is now fixed. Maybe Mr. Fuller, I will speak to you a little bit later as to what I was told, what could be possible suspects in that, but not right now. You can also Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com. And I will try to get them on. I don't know if I can get it on this week, but I will make every attempt to. Before we introduce Mr. Fuller to some and present to others, we want to just go back. Last week, Brother Tariq, I believe, out of Brooklyn, mentioned that there was something that he said about Sandra Rand, the sister who was according to the authorities, died under suspicious circumstances. I think that the officials in Texas said that she committed suicide, and Brother Tariq had mentioned that there was some possible movement in that case. And I did go online and had a few sources, and my people, we went to try to see what Brother Tariq mentioned was accurate. From all of our research, this is the information that we got, is that there is no new investigation. However, there are some that want to treat it as a murder investigation, but the ME medical examiner and the officials involved in that are still sticking by that story that that she committed suicide. The families don't know either about what's going on, but there are visuals still going on even today, September the 16th, 2015. There are visuals that are going on outside the jail in Texas, for that every single day. A couple of ministers are there, and they've been there every day because they want an open an investigation, and I do not know if the Justice Department will do that or not. Anyway, that's the update on that. And then before we go to the phone lines, Mr. Fuller, first of all, how are you this morning?
I'm still learning.
That is great. A topic or a subject came up amongst a few people. We were discussing a publication and I guess a brief movie that's going to come out. It's called The Final Judgment, and it has to deal with Black Wall Street. Now, when I was coming up, we didn't even hear about this in the history books, not even in college that I attended. It wasn't even mentioned about this. But I know that you were born in Oklahoma, and maybe you can shed some light on that, the Final Judgment, Black Wall Street, and what exactly happened to it, and why is it still going on today?
I didn't know anything about it when I was coming up, except just some brief rumors. People didn't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of people coming back from different wars, particularly World War II, just didn't mention it. But it was just mentioned in passing. And I asked questions about it at the time, not many questions. I was very young at the time. But people just didn't say anything about it, like it never happened. And that the incidents of the burning down of the place that was called that wasn't talked about. And I didn't bother to read about it later on. I understood the significance of it, but at that time, it stood out just like all of the incidences of lynchings and black people being dragged behind vehicles, through the small towns and whatnot, with people standing on the sideline cheering and whatnot. I heard about all of this in different places. I was experiencing the back of the bus myself, right up until my 30s, in which time I was told that I could now sit anywhere on the bus. But I came up through all of that, but this was just sort of routine information, so it didn't. Black Wall Street and the what some people refer to as a war that went on over there,
yes,
for a few days, just 60 miles away from where I was born.
Mm-hmm.
It was just considered, well, business as usual. So, we are Negroes.
Mm-hmm.
We are colored people.
Mm-hmm.
We are people of color. So, the killing of us, people coming around and doing things to harm us, that's normal.
Yes, sir.
Situation normal. This is all I ever knew. And you might say that is extended until this day. So
yes, sir.
I don't distinguish anything like Trayvon Martin or Black Wall Street or anybody being shot down in the street or so-called police brutality.
Mm-hmm.
To me, this is business as usual.
Right.
This is what life,
right,
quote unquote, is all about on this planet.
Yes. One of the things that came up in the discussion, in addition to Black Wall Street, where the black people were very prominent, they were forced to, that is black people, they were forced to have their own. There were schools and libraries, but barbershops. There was a train system, which I didn't even know that existed back in there. They were self-sufficient. As a matter of fact, as I was reading the document yesterday, before a dollar went out of the black community, it changed hands over 100 times. It was a tremendous place, and understand only 3,000 people, black folks were murdered, actually. all because the racists, the KKK, did not like the fact that blacks were very prominent and were producing their own. They weren't buying from the merchants in the white merchants in Tulsa. They were taking care of themselves and supporting themselves. I believe there was a couple of schools there in addition to churches there. It was really thriving. They had, some of those black people had planes. They were wealthy. And the white supremacists did that to them. Also along in Rosewood, Florida, did the same thing. And sometimes I wonder if there are other towns, and there probably were other towns that were bombed or black folks killed because of the white supremacists. And I wondered if you had heard anything else beside the Black Wall Street where this action happen, and as you know, as today, it still is going on.
Well, there was a town called Boley, Oklahoma, that was what people would call self-sufficient. They had their own bank and whatnot.
Yes.
Not far from Oklahoma City. And in fact, the bank was robbed by one of the Pretty Boy Floyd gang and whatnot, but that didn't turn out too well, that the people that robbed it, because people were coming back from hunting, and they heard that the bank was being robbed. These were black people called Negroes at that time. So they got there in time. Since they were coming back from hunting, they had their rifles with them. So they actually, they killed the people who were robbing the bank. They were white people. And I think it was one black person who was involved with them. But they shot the car to pieces before it got away. And because that was a town that kind of stood alone, Boley, Oklahoma.
Boley,
so,
Oklahoma. Wow, okay.
And of course, the town where I was from, my progenitor, Neely Fuller Sr., he ran businesses on 2nd Street there in Muskogee, Oklahoma. He had several businesses, and there was a blacksmith shop that he ran, and it was under the tutelage of Mr. H.N. Green, who was a sort of a professional type person. We always kind of call him the professor because he always had a lot of philosophies and whatnot. But they had blacksmith shops back in that day.
Yes, sir.
My father owned that blacksmith shop. He also owned and operated a restaurant 24 hours a day, and a hotel, and a meat market, and a barber shop.
Wow.
And a pool hall, and a beauty shop. This wasn't unusual in a lot of places. Kansas City had Streets Hotel and whatnot. Tulsa, Oklahoma at that time had their own hotels and whatnot, and also Oklahoma City. Younger people coming along nowadays, they are not familiar with this because black people were told by the white people that you can't come where we are, so we will help you to get your own. Now, they kind of went overboard with it in Tulsa because they said, we don't want any contact with you people at all. Now, Tulsa stood out differently from any place in the South, I believe. Because they didn't want you coming anywhere. They didn't want you to come in their banks. And this is why people, Tulsa had their own banks. Because the white people there said, we just don't want any contact with you people at all, if we can at all avoid it. No contact, period. We don't want to talk to you.
You mean the black people said that?
No.
Oh, the white people said that?
The white people said that.
Okay.
That was different from most parts of the South, where white people didn't have any problems contacting black people when it came to business. You know,
but when they saw
all over the South, they didn't. You know, in other words, if you want to come and buy anything from us, we have no problems with taking your money. But in Tulsa, someone started the philosophy of, we don't want to have any contact with you at all. You have your own ice houses. You will make your own ice. If you want to, you have your own bank. You have your own movie theaters. You have your own clothing manufacturers. We just don't want to see you. We don't want your black faces anywhere where we can even see you. if we don't have to.
Okay. The only problem, with that, because I really don't understand that, if the white people felt that way, then why would they go and bomb the thriving black community, Black Wall Street? Why would they kill them if they did not want contact with them?
It's because of the system of white supremacy.
Okay.
See, in other words, once they saw that it was working in black people's favor, they said, "Oh, we just made an error.
Oh, okay.
We're supposed to be taking their money as fast as they get it. We're not supposed to have them building up anything where they are comfortable. These people are not supposed to be comfortable ever. So we'll just scrap that.
Yeah.
And since we have the power to do it, we'll just do it."
Okay, well, now we know that 9/11 was not the first domestic attack on people of the United States. Okay, 1-877-932-9766 is the number you can call, or you can Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com. Let's see, let's go to the phone lines. Line number one, you are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Go ahead.
Yes, hi.
Hi.
My question is, one of the activities is religion. My question is, how has religion in the 21st century, with the evangelists and sending Bibles, sending their religious leaders over to Africa and South America, what is their purpose in shipping Bibles and sending their religious leaders over to do what, you think?
To the extent that white supremacists have anything to do with religion, and they always have just about everything to do with religion when it comes to non-white peoples, they just simply use, like they use all other areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, sex, and war, where religion is the seventh area of activity, according to what I have written in the textbook for victims of white supremacy. And they just look at that and say, "Oh, we're supposed to control their religion too. We tell black people, what to do when it comes to religion. We tell them who to worship. We tell them how to worship. We tell them when to worship, and what kind of temples or mosques or churches or whatever their religious institutions are. We tell them how it's going to be run and what kind of philosophies they're going to have in there. And we make sure, we don't care what it is. I mean, whether it's Jesus or Muhammad or Moses or whatever, we look at it and see if it's going to be of any damage to the system of white supremacy. Now, as long as it incurs no damage to the system of white supremacy, they can worship any way they want to. We don't care about that. As long as they obey us on this earth, we don't care about the hereafter or nothing else. We care about what's going on here. Because, and let them think about one of these days they might get something in some other place at some other time. But while they're here, if they have color in their skin, their religions are not going to interfere with our brutality on this planet. We are in charge of this planet. Now, they can pray to whomever they want to, and they can sing to whoever they want to. They can clap their hands and jump up and down all they want to. We'll help them do that.
So are you saying...
But if they do anything that displeases us, they're going to find out who their real God is, and they know it.
So religion
leaders... That's the white supremacist philosophy all over the world when it comes to religion and non-white people.
So white religious leaders are white supremacists too, then?
It depends on whether or not they are. See, I can't make a broad statement like that. I'm prohibited by the code from doing that. But I'm saying they are suspects if they are able to be. Any white person who is able to be a white supremacist probably is. Sorry about that. Since we don't, where's the logic in this? Where's the humanity in this? Well, there's no master list of who's a white supremacist and who isn't. But we do know that white supremacy is the dominant force among the non-white people of this entire planet. So that means that millions and millions and millions of white people are white supremacists. But millions of them will never say that they are. A few of them will say that they are. Like the young fella that went into the black church and killed those black people while they were practicing religion, showing that, hey, I'm your God. I'll come in your church, because it's really not your church, it's my church. I'll come in your church and kill you, because it's not your church, it's my church. I just let you come in here. I'm your God, and I will show you that I'm your God. I will come in your church and kill you while you're praying to your God, to show you who your real God is. And that's the white supremacist philosophy.
Wow.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sister. You're listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., heard exclusively on TalkTameItRadio.com. That is radio the way it should be heard. If you would like to call in, you can. Phone lines are now up and working. 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com, and we will try to get you on. Mr. Fuller, we have to do this. Speak to your publication, please. Just a few words.
Yes. The basic title is the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. And then there is a attendant title, a textbook workbook for thought, speech, and/or action for victims of racism. Racism being white supremacy. And it's addressed to the individual black person, the individual non-white person, and what he or she can do on a day-to-day basis, what to do, what to say, things to do, things not to do, things to say, things not to say, in trying to ultimately replace the system of white supremacy with the system of justice. There's also an extension book to this basic book called a Codified Counter-Racist Word Guide, and that consists of just basically words that you can use, because the white supremacists use words that support racism, and you have to have counter words. You use the same words, but you use it to counter the racism that they are practicing. You don't have to learn a new language. You just take the words that they use, that they give us. I call it political jujitsu. And you flip the words in such a way that you take those words that they use to practice racism, and you make those same words counter-racist in their effect. And the book shows you some guidelines for doing that. Mm-hmm. You can get the book by going to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. That's for the basic book and the additional book.
Okay. And speaking about that before we go to the Gmails, people who are overseas have been trying to get the book. Is that possible now for people outside of the U.S. and Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, and so forth?
No, it is not. It is not through the apparatus that I have set up now. I'm working on it. There are some people who are helping me to work on that, to get that done.
Okay.
So that the book can be available in the United Kingdom and in France and ultimately in Africa and Canada, etc.
Okay. So they have to go to people here in U.S. and the Virgin Islands and so forth can get it by going to producejustice.com.
Yes.
Okay. That's good. Okay. We got a Gmail. This is from Brother Jamal. He says, hello. It was stated by Mr. Fuller, a white and non-white couple involved romantically, sexually is a tragic arrangement, strengthens the system of white supremacy. Now, if both individuals are practicing the code that is replacing the system of white supremacy with a system of justice, isn't that tragic arrangement now a threat to the system of white supremacy, as in destroying it and tearing it down? Thanks a lot. I'm Jamal, and I'm still learning.
Not if they're having sexual intercourse. If they're just working side by side, and like you might say, a Catholic priest, not having sexual intercourse, making the total sacrifice of not having sexual intercourse between white and non-white, and working to replace the system of white supremacy with the system of justice, then that will work. See, it's only the act of sexual intercourse and sexual play that white and non-white shouldn't be engaged in under the system of white supremacy. If there was no system of white supremacy, it'd just be person meets person. It would just be male meets female. And they get together. And they have sexual intercourse and sexual play. That's harmless if there were no system of white supremacy. Because we are in wartime. And in wartime, you don't fraternize in that fashion. You don't have sexual intercourse with the people who you are subject to. And the non-white person is always a subject person to any white person, any person classified as white. So it's like the prisoner having sexual intercourse with the warden. You can't do that. The prisoner has to no longer be a prisoner. That's the equation. And then it's just male meets female. No problem. But otherwise, as long as you have this wartime situation, and the non-white people, the black people of this planet, are prisoners of war, they're not supposed to be having sexual intercourse with white people, because white people, regardless of their intent, if they're having sexual intercourse with non-white people in this wartime condition, in the system of white supremacy, it's the warden taking advantage of the prisoner. You can't be the warden of the prison or associated with the system that's set up where the white people are the wardens of this prison and have sexual intercourse with the prisoners. You are committing a grievous act, a dominant act, a war of aggression if you're having sexual intercourse with your prisoners.
Okay. All righty. This is another question, and maybe you can answer this, Ed. It says, but it was addressed to Mr. Fuller. It says, there's been a lot of talk about maybe the second hour of the compensatory concept, and I said that I would forward this along. It says, if a sponsor cannot be found for the second live hour for the compensatory concept, how can one start an account to have listeners pay for it? And then he mentions, Ed, a sort of PBS type of support, where people would sponsor the show, or the listeners would sponsor the show. Is that possible, Ed? Oh, okay. Very good. Yeah, it is possible. If, people, if we can't find a sponsor or your suggestions don't pan out, and I just got the word from Ed that if you would like a second hour, a sponsorship for the Neely Fuller Jr. or the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., then if we get the okay, which Ed said it's all right, you can send in donations. You'll find out, from him how much it's going to be, so that the money's coming in would be supportive to produce the second hour of the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. That would be great. So I'll try to find out if that does, where one would send the donations to, and then I guess something would be set up so that funding would go toward the second hour of the compensatory concept, which a lot of you want. I've gotten a lot of emails, and so has Ed. He's gotten a lot of emails with people who are interested. Okay, now it's time for you to put your money where your mouth is. If you would like for that to happen, then all you have to do, and I'll get the information, is we're going to try to set something up where you can write in and send your donations, and then we can go on from there to produce the second hour of the Compensatory Concept with Neely Fuller Jr. TalkTameAtRadio.com. Check us out on WCRS FM 98.3 Wednesdays and Sunday evening. Blogs and podcasts are available. Download TalkTameAtRadio.com app to your cell or tablet. We go where you go. Radio the way it should be heard. Your calls and more Gmails next on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr.
TalkTameAtRadio.com is the premier internet radio platform offering 40-plus talk radio-style programs professionally produced, optimized for online distribution, featuring Columbus, Ohio on-air personalities. TalkTameAtRadio.com offers listeners diverse programming options covering topics such as arts and culture, love, life and relationships, technology, religion, paranormal activities, local and national politics, women's issues, alongside health and wellness. Listeners can access their favorite TalkTameAtRadio.com programs free of cost through the website. Download the TTR app to your cell phone and you can take us wherever you go. We have programs on demand to fit your schedule through our podcast. The address is TalkTameAtRadio.com. Do you have a written plan for your personal success? If not, you must attend SWAT, the Key to Improved Performance, presented by Tom Dillard and Associates, September 17, 2015, 8 a.m. to 12 noon. Call 614-504-3166 to register or go to tomdillard.org and click on Events, the Key to Improved Performance.
This show, A Conversation with Dawn Karima, has been nominated for an Indigenous Music Award, which is just such a great honor. Take a minute and please vote at AboriginalPeoplesChoice.com or Indigenous Music Awards. You can just find it on Google. For this show, A Conversation with Dawn Karima, and my CD, The Stars of Heaven, for Best Gospel, and this show for Best Radio Program. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everybody. Stop by and vote and tell them this is where great things happen.
Think about planning a family reunion? Why not join Tires Tours and Travel for a 5-day family reunion cruise aboard the Carnival Elation, sailing from Jacksonville to Half Moon Cay and Nassau on June 27, 2016, where we have planned lots of activities for everyone, so bring the entire family. This cruise is for the family that wants to vacation together. Space is limited, so call today. A $25 deposit will reserve your space. For more information, call 866-547-5362 or visit tirestours.com.
September 19th is the 60th anniversary of the trial of the murderers of Emmett Till, and they were acquitted. Emmett Till is the catalyst of the civil rights movement. Dr. Clenora Hudson Weems is the first person to do research on the Emmett Till case. Tune in to All in Our Family on Saturday, September 19th at 2 p.m. and Tuesday, September 22nd at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Dr. Clenora Hudson Weems gives some astonishing remarks about what went on behind scenes while doing the research, and she does an analysis of how it compares to Black Lives Matter. You will hear it first on TalkTameAtRadio.com.
Hey guys, let's play some video games.
This new dad plays video games with his sons, but the challenge feels like he's lifting a metric ton.
So many buttons.
His avatar just stares at the walls, twists and turns and somehow falls.
Help me!
He's tangled up in the controller's cord.
I just don't understand this crazy digital world.
Crazy, crazy digital world. Zeros and ones. But the love from his kids is totally apparent. Ooh. See, you don't have to be perfect to be the perfect parent.
You should have just played catch. You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of siblings in foster care will take you just as you are. For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Hi, honey.
Hey, sugar.
I'm so excited to hear about the big vacation you plan for us next month. So where are we going?
Well, baby, I was trying to get us a good deal to go to Hawaii, but by the time I searched the web, the best deal I got was this place in California. We could stay on the mountaintop and see Hawaii from this great ocean view.
Oh, Harold.
Come on, you've got to go with this.
Why didn't you listen to me and call Perrine at Special Events and Tours?
I thought I could do it myself.
She can get us a great deal on any vacation, cruises, all-inclusive resorts, and weekend getaways. She even does custom trips and events for Broadway plays, concerts, festivals, and family reunions.
Do you think she knows what state the statute of limitations is in? I always wanted to see that.
Just call Perrine at Special Events and Tours at 740-927-6551. Did you get that, Harold? 740-927-6551.
Yeah, baby. I got it. I'll make the call.
Goodwill is a global social services enterprise and the leading nonprofit provider of job training programs and career services in the United States and Canada. To pay for its program, Goodwill sells donated clothes and other household items in more than 2,700 stores and online at shopgoodwill.com. Goodwill uses the revenue earned from these sales to fund job training, employment placement services, and other community programs. The goal of the campaign is to increase goods donations to Goodwill, inspire an emotional connection to the Goodwill brand, and to elevate preference for Goodwill.
The United Independent Compensatory Code System concept by Neely Fuller is considered as one of the substantial and basic books for understanding and effectively countering racism. Neely Fuller will turn upside down everything you've heard and everything you think you know about racism and how it works. Call area code 202-484-5461. 202-484-5461.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
Go ahead. Make my day.
You got the power.
Alrighty, TalkTainmentradio.com, the world's greatest radio. That's radio the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby, and you are listening to the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. We started out by talking about Black Wall Street, but we will take your questions and Gmails. By the way, 1-877-932-9766 is the number. You can call or Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com. Mr. Fuller, that number that Ron gave, is that still a working number where people, for whatever reason, couldn't get in contact with email, they could call that number and they could still get the results to get your book?
Oh, producejustice.com is where you go to get the book.
Okay, producejustice.com.
Yeah,
okay.
That's it. That's it exclusively.
Okay, exclusively. Okay.
Right.
All right. Let's go to the phone lines. Okay, you are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Good morning, and what is your call? What is your question? Line number 2. All righty. Go ahead. You're on.
Greetings. Can I be heard?
Yes.
Yes, sir. First, I spent 4 years in the state of Oklahoma at Langston University, and I also did not hear anything at all about the incident that took place, the battle that took place in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I actually traveled as a football player representing Langston University twice to the city of Tulsa and never heard of it. I had teammates on the team from Tulsa that the subject matter never came up. The first time that I heard about it, and I'm in the place in the world that's called Miami, Florida, was watching a documentary that came on television in I think the late 80s, early 90s,
yes,
something like that. Also, the Trail of Tears was started down here and ended in the state of Oklahoma. At that time was a concentration camp. I didn't know anything about that type of history of the indigenous peoples who are also classified as non-white black, who are in the state of Oklahoma. There's a big history with the state of Oklahoma and the system of racism, white supremacy in this part of the world. But my question is, there was an interesting program on the cows last night, and Mr. Fuller is fully aware of the cows because he's been on many, many times.
Yes.
We appreciate him being on that program. And it was about the people activity of sex, a young non-white black female who was talking about a relationship that she had, a sexual relationship we had with a white male who she finally figured out was not genuine in his part of the relationship. She agrees to the idea that we're under a system of global racism, white supremacy, but at the same time, she is still in the position to entertain the idea of having sex with white people. My question is, how can it be explained in a codified way that sex with white people is counterproductive to the neutralizing of the system of racism, white supremacy?
Mr. Fuller?
It's in the category with child abuse. All of the black people on this planet are children. We have been prohibited from becoming grown people. That slang expression called when you're grown up. That's why we are called sometimes in a derogatory way and sometimes just in a paternalistic way, boys and girls. Oh, those boys, those girls, hey, boy, come and shine my shoes. We're considered boys because we are. A boy is dependent on a man. Girls are dependent on grown people, boys and girls. So black people in the system of white supremacy are functional boys and girls. We don't like it, but that's the truth. You become a boy. You become a girl. You don't ever become a so-called grown up in the system of white supremacy because you have been rendered in a childlike condition. See, children are dependent on grown-ups. So they go to their illegitimate parents in this case, because the illegitimate parents of the non-white people of this planet are the white supremacists, racist man and racist woman. They have made the black people of this planet completely dependent on the decisions that they make. That means that we are children, illegitimate children, children who have been seized even before we were born because they seized our parents. So we were born in captivity and rendered in a childlike condition. And so that's why they call us traditionally boys and girls. All those boys and girls, what do they know? They can't do anything except what we tell them. They don't know anything because we see to it that we only teach them what we want them to know. So regardless of they strutting around among themselves saying that they are grown, they're not grown. They're subject to us. So when we have sexual intercourse with them, we are child abusers. That's what the white supremacists are. Mm-hmm. This is child abuse when you have sexual intercourse with people who are in a childlike condition. And that's the way you look at it, because that's the way it truthfully is. We are completely dependent. You don't have any black people anywhere on this planet who are not dependent on the white supremacists. I don't care what so-called country you go to or how many flags they are flying. When the white supremacists say jump, you jump if you got color in your skin. When they say lay down and let us have sex with you, we lay down and have sex. That's the way it works.
Okay.
They are in charge. They are not just partially in charge. They are totally in charge.
All righty. Did you have another question, brother, before we have to go?
No, Mr. Fuller explained it thoroughly. Bottom line is when you accept the idea, understand the idea that we are under a system of racist white supremacy, then you have to be honest about your collective position within that.
Okay. Hey, brother, before we let you go, brother, before we let you go, brother, could you just give what that CAL stands for? Some people are not familiar with that.
The context of white supremacy.
Okay, good. All right, context of white supremacy. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your call. Okay, You're listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., heard exclusively on TalkTainMenTRadio.com. Okay, welcome. What is your call? Caller, you're on.
I'm calling from England, and I'd like to ask, I was raised in foster care for 17 years with white people. I'd like to ask, what are the things that I need to do as a black male to make me more logical and more smart in order to deal with white supremacy?
I don't know if Mr. Fuller heard that. I didn't hear it all the way. Could you repeat that question from England?
Okay. I was raised in foster care with white people for 17 years, and it's impacted me quite a lot. I was like, what do I need to do to become more logical and more smart in order to counter white supremacy?
Okay, Mr. Fuller, did you hear that?
No, I didn't get the question.
Said he was raised in foster care, and what by white people, caller?
Yeah, that's right, for 17 years.
For 17 years, okay. And then what is your question? Because we're having a problem hearing you. Maybe it's an accent thing, but we're having problems hearing you. Okay, you were.
I'll repeat very slowly. I was like to ask, what do I need to do as a black male to become more logical and more smart?
Okay, what do you need to do as a black male to become more logical, and what else?
Smarter.
And smarter. Okay, Mr. Fuller.
Just understand the systems we're in. I mean, if you're on this planet, you should understand how the planet is run and who runs it, and what your part is in it, in whatever's being done. And this is just knowledge that anybody should have, regardless of who they are, male, female, white, non-white, young, old. Where do you fit in the giant scheme of things? So if you are a person of color, the people who took over, all of the people of color, were the white supremacists, and so they say what you can do and what you can't do. You have to understand that. That's why in the front of the book I say, if you don't understand white supremacy, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will confuse you. Now, no one on the planet, not even for 5 minutes, should be confused about anything. Everyone on the planet, white and non-white, young and old, male and female, should understand the planet that they are on and what's going on in all areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. The whole idea of being on this planet is you're supposed to try to learn your environment and what it's all about and what you are here for. So I came to the conclusion we're here to solve problems. I think that's the logical conclusion. Why? Because we have problems to solve.
Okay. Well, thank you, caller. And Mr. Fuller is working on getting the book so that you can get the book. But that would be a good place to start, by getting the United Independent Compensatory Code System concept. That is a textbook workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of racism, which is white supremacy. And as soon as he can get a connection for all of our overseas listeners, he will tell me, and we will announce it so that you can get the book. But that would be a good place for you to start. So thank you, my brother, for listening. Okay, let's go to the phone lines again. Line number 2. You are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. This is Tariq from the Bronx.
Yes.
My question to Mr. Fuller is, I was having a discussion recently with a few people, and we mentioned voting. And I mentioned that voting doesn't mean much unless the system of white supremacy is eliminated. So my question to Mr. Fuller is, how much of a difference does voting make in this current system?
Okay.
You look at voting the same way you look at just having breakfast or dinner or doing anything else that you do, reading a book or changing towns or trying to build a better house or move into a better apartment. It's just a process of trying to do the best that you can in the prison that you're in. You know, you move to a better cell where you can think better. I mean, you might can get better food or a better bunk. I mean, the bunk that you're lying on may be uncomfortable and whatnot, so you get a new mattress because the warden allows you to have one. So you do the same thing with voting. You do the best you can in the prison conditions that you're in. Remember, we are all in prison if you have color in your skin. And the prison is called a system of white supremacy, which means what? It just doesn't mean being in charge. It means I'm in charge of you because I'm white, and therefore I have a duty to mistreat you. See, here's the thing about white supremacy. It's not just being in charge. It's just that I have a duty to mistreat you, to make you uncomfortable in mind or body, because that is my duty as a white person.
Yes.
Because I assume that that's what I'm supposed to be doing with my existence on this planet, and get you to look up and worship me based on my mistreatment of you. And it's a perverted idea, but it's a very powerful idea. And you can get a lot of things done. But they do allow you to vote, to get a few better trinkets than you have, a little comfortable position for the time being. So you just take advantage of that the best you can, just like going to school or anything else that they allow you to do. Because anything that you do, if you're black on this planet, you are being allowed to do it by the white supremacists if it's of any benefit at all.
All righty. Thank you, Brother Tariq from Brooklyn. Let's go to line number 3. Line number 3, what is your call from Mr. Neely Fuller Jr.?
Hello. My question to Mr. Fuller is this. I'm divorced. Me and my ex-wife, we have a child together. Recently, she's remarried. She's married to a white male, and they moved to a different state. My question is this. I worry that if I try to talk to him about racism, my son, and I worry that he won't take it seriously because he sees his mother with a white male, and that'll reinforce to him that racism doesn't exist. So I just wanted to know how I can go about, communicating with him and convincing him that racism is a real problem.
Mr. Fuller?
Oh, you always communicate with people in the most constructive manner. But if they ask you questions about the arrangement that they're in, you just tell them the truth, that it's a master-servant arrangement, with the master being whomever the white person is. But at the same time, you talk to them with courtesy. You do the best you can. We're all prisoners of war, and we just have to face that. And it was set up long before any of us were born. Any of the people who are on the planet now, this was set up long before any of the people who are walking around on the planet now were here. So we were born in a system that's set up this way and passed on generation after generation after generation, ever since the advent of the system of white supremacy. It's well established. So we try to, as Rodney King said, try to get along as best you can and try to make every situation as constructive and as peaceful as you possibly can. But if people ask you direct question about this arrangement that we have, because we don't have a relationship, we say it's a poisonous arrangement. It's not the way that this planet should be run. It shouldn't be run on a basis of mistreating people based on color. But that's what we have. So we're trying to replace that with a better system. But we are all a part of this poisonous system because we were born in it.
Born in it, yes, sir. Okay, thank you, thank you, caller. Okay, let's go to line number 4. You are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. What is your question?
My question is, how do you relate this new movie out called War Rooms with racism, white supremacy, because it has an all-black cast, and it seems like it should be all kind of people in the movie to see this love and see this joy, and the people that is producing it is two white males.
Okay, Mr. Fuller?
I sometimes I do not get the...
Okay. I'll ask her again. What was the question, my sister?
The question is, how does the movie War Room relate to racism, white supremacy? Because it's mostly an all-black cast, and it should be a multitude of people involved in that movie, and it's produced and directed by two white males, wherein I feel they're using black people to get rich, because most of the people going are the majority black people. And he also talks about the world is full with racial divide and all that, but they don't have no white people partly in that movie, or a different kind of people. I just feel like it should be a plethora of different people in the movie.
Okay, the movie War Room?
Yes.
Okay, when did that come out?
It just came out.
Okay, and you asked Mr. Fuller, how does that
relate to racism, white supremacy?
Okay. Mr. Fuller?
I haven't seen the movie, so therefore I can't make any evaluation of what I think about it based on what I'm required to think about it based on the counter-racist code. But if it has any constructive effect, see, any movie, it doesn't make any difference what it is, regardless of the name of the movie or who produced it and whatnot, if it has a constructive effect, that's the main thing you look for on the minds of people. Movies are supposed to have an effect on how people think that will translate into how they speak and act. So if black people go and see this movie, regardless of who produced it and who's making the money from it, if it has an overall constructive effect on the way that black people or white people think, speak, and act, rather than a non-constructive effect, then it's okay. Now, who makes the money off of the movie and all like that? It would be the white supremacists directly, indirectly, anyway, because all money is controlled by the white supremacists. All money on this planet is controlled by the white supremacists. Why? Because all of the non-white people on this planet are under the control of the white supremacists.
Okay. All right, my sister, thank you very much. Got a Gmail from Tony. He says, I'm Tony from Houston. Hopefully, Mr. Fuller, my question is, you always are explaining how the white supremacy is running the worldwide system, and it seems as though we as blacks have no chance to rise. So how would we as a people that is non-white overthrow white supremacy if your opinion is that they are running everything worldwide? Thanks, and still learning.
We need to establish the one thing that we haven't had, and that's a counter-racist code. We just walk around. Most black people's priority is just to get through the day and then go and hang out with other black people. Now, that's worldwide. We spend most of our time trying to impress each other. That's what we look forward to. If you stop and think about it and just observe it closely, and I think I may have it incorrect, I don't think so, year after year, decade after decade, the priorities of most of the black people on the planet is to do one or two or three or four things to impress other black people, rather than to replace the entire system of racism with justice. That's two different worlds altogether. And that's what should be our priority. But we have to have a code for doing that. A code just means a way of thinking, speaking, and acting.
Okay.
When you get up in the morning till you go to bed at night, are you doing anything to help to replace the system of racism with the system of justice?
Okay.
If the answer is no, you're not on track. You're not doing what you should be doing.
Okay, and lastly, and I'm going to mess up the last name, but I think it's Kangemeyer. He says, Mr. Fuller, I would like to know the process of licensing an audio clip of on your show to use in a documentary. I am independent. I am an independent film producer, and I am working on a documentary about things pertaining to white supremacy. I would like to use an audio clip, any audio clip available that you have, Mr. Fuller, explaining the workings of white supremacy. Thanks in advance.
Well, right now, I'm not set up to give any information on that, just like I'm not set up to receive any donations because I don't receive donations.
Right.
So all the talk about donations and whatnot, I'm not involved in that.
Okay.
So that's just the way that is now.
Okay.
I would have to talk about that and consider that sometime later, but I do not receive donations.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Fuller, and thank you, callers. This has been the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., heard exclusively on Talktainment Radio, the world's greatest radio, and radio the way it should be heard. God willing, we will be here next week for your calls and more of Mr. Fuller. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
Talktainment Radio, worldwide sound. TalkTainmentRadio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.